everyone, I'm back with yet another video, and this time around I want us to take a life cycle approach to learning nutrition. We are starting from the beginning of life all the way to the end. There are different stages, and the first stage begins with conception. Sperm meets egg, boom, life begins. And actually it is best to even think through what you are eating before you even fall pregnant. So what then are we supposed to be consuming? What I see oftentimes, pregnant women tend to consume a lot of either non-food items or excessive energy foods which have no nutrients. Now, what are these foods? We call them empty energy. Empty energy meaning it's just fuel and no nutrients to it. How I like to explain empty energy is like this. Imagine you're moving from, let's say, Baule going to town, or you're moving from Lusaka going to Ndola. Buses will not move without passengers. They make sure that they have some good number of passengers before they can move. The reason being they do not want to spend fuel without making money out of it. So in the same way, you wouldn't want to eat food that is just giving you fuel, but you're not making a profit out of that food. What are the profits? Is the nutrients, the substances that should be found or that are found in food, basically making the body function normally. And when you are pregnant, your body actually is under a lot of pressure because it has to sustain your health and also the health of the growing baby. So imagine that pressure now without the nutrients, without the tools that it needs to actually do its job. So now there are a number of nutrients. There are about more than 40 nutrients. And today I want to zero in on 5 nutrients that are of public health concern. Number 1 being iron. Vanamayo, I'm sure you've been told this at the health facility. Iron. Number 2, I want us to talk about folic acid, or rather folate, right? In the synthetic form, it's called folic acid. The nutrient itself is called folate, or B9, if you want to be as simple as possible. Number 3, calcium. Number 4, vitamin C. And then also, I would want for us to talk about zinc. And already evidence is showing that a number of women of reproductive age, Banamayo, we are not consuming enough of foods that contain these nutrients. Why are these nutrients important? Number 1, calcium. We know calcium for strong bones and what? Strong bones and teeth. Not only your bones as the woman, but also the growing baby. You can get calcium from animal foods. You can get calcium from milk. Even foods like kapenta. Fish that you eat whole, tudaga, mintesa, a number of small fishes that you can consume. Goodness with this is you are eating together with the bones, and that's why they offer a good calcium supply. Calcium can also be obtained from beans, lentils, which you need during pregnancy. Secondly, I want us to talk about iron. Iron is one of those nutrients that help to build your blood. During pregnancy, you need extra blood. You need blood for the growing baby. You need also blood for yourself. So dark green leafy vegetables and animal flesh are good sources of iron. And when it comes to folic acid, remember, is a nutrient that helps with the formation or the development of a human being, development of the baby who is growing. And unfortunately, in cases where there is not enough folic acid or vitamin B9, what results is a situation where you see maybe the child's brain grows outside the casing of the brain. Maybe you find that they have a little bulge on their spine, and all that is actually preventable. And unfortunately, we do see such cases in Zambia as well, and that can cause a lot of stress, not only to the family, but to the child who now has to come into this world with a disability. So to prevent that, eat foods that are high in folate. Groundnuts are a good example. And groundnuts, you eat the groundnuts together with papa, because the folate is actually in the purpose of the groundnuts. This, you don't do this. I've seen some people throw this away and only eat this. No, but what I want you to do now is eat the groundnuts as whole as it is, like this, because that folate is also in the cover of the groundnuts. So groundnuts are high in folate, as well as foods that are not refined. For example, shima made from unrefined mealie meal. You buy maize, you go to the chigayo, they gaya everything for you, and you make your shima out of it. It is better than having this breakfast shima. It's the cereals which have the fiber, the gaga. So you're not going to eat breakfast meal, please, when you're pregnant. Eat shima made from gaiwa. Or you can also eat oats for breakfast. Oats are high in fiber and also high in that same gaga and so forth, and so you're also getting your B9. Or also foods that have been fortified. There are certain foods, especially if you're buying from the supermarket, just check to ensure that that food has the word fortified to eat fortified, and you check the nutrients. If B9 is one of them, that's a good food. But the next nutrient also that I want us to discuss is zinc. And zinc is an important nutrient for the growth, especially the reproductive organs of your growing baby. So get your zinc from legumes or pulses, beans, lentils, cowpeas. I actually brought cowpeas here. It's not only good in protein, but it's also good in a number of nutrients, and zinc is one of them. But also other foods that are high in zinc are pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, which you can easily roast and eat like a snack. Now, for vitamin C, what foods do you need to eat to get your vitamin C? There are so many foods in Zambia that contain vitamin C, and I'm going to start with our indigenous fruits. And one of those indigenous fruits is mabuyu. This guy here. Mabuyu is actually a good source of vitamin C. If you ask me, this guy beats lemons. This here beats oranges. This here beats guavas when it comes to vitamin C. So imagine just cracking this, and those little balls that you find in there, just pop them and suck on them like sweets. Trust me, you'll get your vitamin C that you need for the day by just consuming a handful of mabuyu, that powder, mabuyu powder, which you can either add also to your porridge if you want to just use the powder. So those are sources of vitamin C as well. So there is mabuyu, tamarind, ngai, you can eat makole, you can eat, there are so many foods that are high in vitamin C. Now, even when you consume all these foods, there is still need for a little boost. That's where supplementation comes into play. It's always important to add those vitamins or nutrients that you are given in form of a tablet from your health facility. And it is very important, Wanamayo, that we go to our health facilities as soon as you notice that you are pregnant. We are pushing as a country to have multivitamins, meaning a supplement that has different kinds of vitamins in it and minerals as well. But for now, oftentimes we'll have either a combined pill where you get your iron and folic acid, or two separate pills, one which is yellow in color, which is your folic acid, and the other one which is red in color, which is iron. Those two are very important for the development of your baby. And so supplementation is just basically, from the word itself, supplement, meaning it is adding to food, not food adding to the supplement. Oftentimes we make that mistake. You think you can eat whatever you eat out there. You don't care whether it is nutritious or not, with what nutrients are in it, and you think no, supplementation will cover what you are not eating. But no, it's the opposite. You should supplement your diet, not your diet supplementing the supplements. No. Now, there are certain myths during pregnancy. For example, a pregnant woman cannot eat eggs. Eggs are good for a pregnant woman, but unfortunately, eggs can also contain certain bacteria like salmonella, which can affect pregnancy. And so when you're going to cook eggs, cook them thoroughly. I'm not saying overcook, where you boil to the point where the yolk has a grayish thing around it. No. Cook them right, but let them not be runny. Also, undercooked meat. You want to cook your meat thoroughly to ensure that your child is well protected as he grows or she grows. People also think that jolly juice is good for blood. Let me tell you, jolly juice is just jolly juice. It's zigoro with colorant. It's basically water, sugar, and some color to make it red. I do agree that dark red foods are good for boosting blood, but jolly juice is not one of those drinks. So please, Banamayo, you are just taking excess sugar when you are taking in those jolly juices or sweeteners or whatever they are. Because something, a drink or a food is red, does not mean that it contains iron or blood boosting properties. What I want you to consume, red foods like beetroot, tomatoes, beans, dark red kidney beans, all those are better options that you can consume. Red cabbage as well, red onions as well. real foods that are red, not things that are manufactured in a lab or in some industry somewhere and then given to you because it's red and you think, no, it will boost my blood. No, Jolly juice does not boost blood. Let's talk about alcohol during pregnancy. It is a no-no. Do not consume alcohol. Not even in the so-called, I just had a glass, no alcohol at all. Please let us protect the growing child. Alcohol is a danger to the child. Already it is a danger to you alone. So giving it now to a growing baby, instead of giving the child nutrients, you are in a bar somewhere taking alcohol like no man's business. You are destroying not only your future but that of your child. Nani wa ukakusunga when you are old. It is that same child you are carrying. So why not ensure that the child has good nutrition, the child has the brains to actually function in this society and keep you and take care of you in your old age. So please don't destroy them. Don't be short-sighted. Don't be selfish. Alcohol is not good for children. What alcohol causes in a growing child is what we call fetal alcohol syndrome. You are able to actually tell a child who was fed or given alcohol when they were still in the womb. The forehead, for example, is not properly formed. You find that the forehead slants backwards. Instead of having a forehead that goes like this, the child has a forehead that slants backward. The eyes as well, the space between the two eyes is much wider in children who are given alcohol in the womb. But also just general features, even intelligence, the IQ of a child is actually low. So why put yourself or put your child through that in early infancy? Let's ensure that you avoid alcohol totally during pregnancy. Another thing I feel you need to avoid during pregnancy is organ meat. Organ meat means amatumbo. So eating foods like liver, if you're like kidney and so forth, because these are foods that are super high in vitamin A, and vitamin A when in excess is actually dangerous for the child. So rather give the child, your growing child in the womb, moderate amounts of vitamin A, which you are going to find in orange foods, which you are going to find in dark green foods, as well as the flesh of animals, the flesh minus the organ meat. So please, during pregnancy, lay off the liver for a while. I know liver tastes wonderful, but in pregnancy, I would want you to please stay away from liver, kidney, stay away from heart, or any matumbo, any offals like kind of food. So stay away from that, tripe as well, and just stick to the flesh of animals so that you prevent excessive amounts of vitamin A. Smoking is also not a good idea during pregnancy because you're going to deplete a lot of nutrients in your body. You may cause the child to be born of low birth weight. Low birth weight is a child who is born less than 2.5 kgs. So you want to avoid that by avoiding smoking. And smoking is not just shisha, it's not just cigarette smoke, even in sunko. This wanamayo, let's stop, not during pregnancy. Do that on your own for yourself. I wouldn't recommend that you even do it when you're not pregnant, but because you are pregnant, please do not, because you are carrying life that does not need all that. You're going to cause the child to be born with a low birth weight and also with very little nutrients that they need to survive. Another drink you need to avoid during pregnancy is coffee. It can actually trigger labor and you now end up with a miscarriage, and so avoid coffee by all means. It is also useful to eat foods that are low in salt, and so taking excessive amounts of salt during pregnancy can trigger hypertension. Already the fact that you are carrying an extra child or an extra load, you find that your blood pressure will increase, and when your blood pressure is high, it can cause a number of complications later on in your pregnancy. First trimester you'll be okay. Second trimester things start to look a bit shady, and so to avoid that, consume foods that are not excessive in salt. Weight loss as well is not advisable during pregnancy. It is what it is. Think of weight loss after. But what you need to do is ensure that you do not put on excessive amounts of weight, and so take it easy with the eating. In the first trimester, you are not eating for two. First trimester meaning the first 3 months of pregnancy. It's only in the second trimester that you need to maybe add an extra meal. Not maybe, you actually need to add an extra meal. So for example, you have your breakfast in the morning, have another breakfast number 2, breakfast part 2 around 10-11 hours, and then have your lunch at 13 hours, and then maybe dinner, and also a good snack in between. When I say snack, I don't mean empty energy snacks, no. What I mean is groundnuts, pumpkin seeds, things that are dense in nutrients is what you need to eat throughout the day. Now, how do you consume food throughout the day? Whether you are pregnant or not, half your plate should be vegetables, because you want to maximize on nutrients. I know we already consume enough energy. I don't think you need to tell any Zambian to say, eat more energy-rich foods. There are very few people who I'll have to cancel that way. It's usually reduce your energy and increase foods that are high in nutrients. And one way of doing that is increasing your vegetable intake. To not make the meal boring, I prefer to have 2 vegetables on my plate. One green and one other color. And oftentimes the color will be of white color, like for example chihuahua with impwa, kalembula with cabbage, spinach with red cabbage, something else with beetroot, carrot, beetroot, that kind of combination. That way half your plate has vegetables of different kinds. The other half you divide by 2, which will be on shima or rice or potatoes or whatever, the quarter. So basically quarter of your plate. But unfortunately, we want to make the whole plate rice, and then we just have toppings. Like, the way you make pizza. You put rice, you put shima, and then the rest are just like decorations. No. Now, a number of people also consume the clay, atishan ilova. I don't know how to call it in English. I think it's clay. So you take clay, you start sucking on it, in the name of it, I don't know, I have a craving for clay. That is not a good thing. I try to look for other foods that are much healthier to consume, because that clay can contain worms that can affect the growing child. That clay is not adding to your nutrition in any way. It has no vitamin, no nothing. It is just soil. So why are you taking in soil? Let's avoid that, Wanamayo. And I go to Soweto and I see piles and piles of clay being sold, which gives me an indication that a lot of you out there are taking this clay during your pregnancy. It is not a good idea. You are depriving this child of nutrients. Avoid that. If you are going to have that affinity for maybe something hard, eat healthy foods like popcorn, toast, like groundnuts, like crackers, something that is going to add to your nutrition in one way or the other, but definitely not clay. And by the way, foods like popcorn, toast, crackers, foods like hard sweets also, but of course in moderation because of the sugar, they help with alleviation of nausea. I know a number of us during this stage also have nausea. It can be in the first pregnancy. Actually, for others in all the stages of pregnancy, you find that one is having that nausea. Basically, you have that feeling to vomit all the time. First of all, one way of dealing with that is to eat slowly. Don't fill your stomach, and that's why it's good to separate, or rather apportion your meals in smaller sizes. But also oily foods should be avoided. Fried fish, fried eggs, fried this, fried that. That oil also gives that urge to want to vomit, and so you may want to change your cooking methods to boiling, to grilling, to braising, things that are dry also, and not too much in soup. That can help to alleviate the need to want to vomit. Another way of helping release that urge to vomit is also taking in water with some lemon in it, or water with cucumber. I did a video on water. You can go and check the benefits of water. You too, in your pregnancy stage, needs to drink a lot of water, or squeeze lemon on your food, especially fish, for example. It helps to reduce that nausea. Now, who said you can't be physically active? Because you are overweight when you fell pregnant, or because you are pregnant, does not mean you now become a couch potato. Walk around, 30 minutes to 1 hour walking, using the stairs instead of the elevator, for example. Park your vehicle very far away to the entrance of where you are going. Small things like that. Swimming are good ways of keeping yourself active, because in the long run, that will help prevent also hypertension during pregnancy, and we are seeing a lot of women being hypertensive during pregnancy or having diabetes during pregnancy. You want to avoid that by being physically active, because physical activity helps to improve your blood circulation, so you're also improving nutrients that are going to your growing baby, but also keeping your weight in check is helpful. Keeping the cells that produce insulin to prevent diabetes, also they function better when you add in some physical exercise. So I hope that was helpful. Enjoy your pregnancy and congratulations. Way to eat.